We're going to move on to section 6.3, which is applications of algebra, aka word problems. So again, these, for those of you who will be taking the GKT, this, a lot of problems will show up like this, where you have to maybe do an initial setup, you translating from words to symbols, and then go ahead and do the solving. So we've taken care of the solving, so now we're going to spend a little bit of time just going to write the expression. So we'll just kind of work through these. If you have, they're fairly basic, but if you do have any questions, let me know. All right, so number one, we're asked to write an expression. And remember, an expression, does it have an equal to sign? No, an expression is just kind of adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, and the basic operations. So if we look at 5 more than x, the expression we're considering is 5, and they actually told us what the variable to use, and we're just going to get more than x, we're going to go ahead and just do some addition. So of course, addition is commutative, so you could have also put x plus 5. So either 5 plus x or x plus 5, either is fine. And number 2, we see the word sum, and remember, to sum just means you're going to add. So this again is going to either be 5 plus x or x plus 5. Because you could add in any order, the mathematical word there is commutative. All right, number 3, 5 decreased by x. So again, you do want to be careful about the order here, because remember that when you're talking about subtraction, you do have to keep in mind that you can't just switch around the subtraction or make the 5 negative or the x positive. The order does matter. So 5 is decreased by x. So you always want to just kind of think about this. 5 is what we start with, and we go ahead and decrease that. So we subtract x from it. So there is the answer there. And you can't change the order there. You can't do x minus 5. That would be a different expression. All right. Number 4, the product. And again, remember the word product is associated with the operation of multiplication. And here we have the product, or we're going to multiply 5 and x. So most commonly, you'd write that just as 5x right next to itself. You may have also written this. Remember, multiplication is commutative, so you could also write that as x times 5. But ultimately, I believe I'll give you more details about the test when we get back from break. If it is multiple choice, you'll end up just going to the simplest form. All right. Number 5, 5 less than x. So again, this is less than, so we're going to be doing some sort of subtraction here. And we just have to think about which one is larger, the x or the 5. So 5 less than x, so that means that this one here is going to be the larger value. So we'll do, in this case, we're going to start with the x, and we're going to subtract the 5 from it. Right, 6 is quotient is associated with the operation of division. It's the answer to a division problem. So the quotient of x and 5, and again, this is, I don't think this problem is written right. You do need to go ahead and apply some kind of idea between which one is in the numerator and what one's in the denominator. That is to say, which one is the dividend and which one is the divisor. So I'm going to go ahead and just add the clarity there. I believe that's just a misprint because you do need to go ahead and specify which one direction you want. So x by 5. So the by is kind of the fraction symbol. So x divided by 5. And this right here, the x is the dividend. I don't think this terminology is in the homework, but just to state it. And then the 5 is the divisor. The way I think about this is the x is at the end of its life, and the 5 has the sword. It's kind of gruesome now that I say it out loud, but maybe it helps you remember the terminology. So some basic review of the language associated with the different operations. Any questions on these? Neat. All right. On the next page, we look at equations. And again, equations, we're just going to have an equal to sign. So the equations, you have an equal to sign. And that equal to sign is pretty much going to be applied by the is. So if you look through all of these problems, you can see an is somewhere in this sentence. So we do have some setup to do with that in terms of our equality. All right, so go ahead and try 7 and 8. Let's go ahead and look at these together now. There was one other thing that was maybe different from the previous ones I should have mentioned earlier. If you didn't get these, that's fine. I just needed a moment to go ahead and change our lighting situation. So instead of giving us x explicitly this time, they said a number. So this right here is our variable, so that is x. So x decreased by 5. So again, x is the larger one, and we're going to decrease that by 5. So this is going to be x minus 5 is equal to 10. How many got 7? Many of you. Very good. Number 8 has a little bit more going on. Let's see how we did. So 16 increased by 8 times a number is 88. So we're going to be equal to 88. And by the way, we didn't need to solve that above. It just asked us to write the equation. So 16 increased by, so we're going to just add that, 8 times a number, and times just multiplication here. So multiplication, and our number here is x, so we would end up with this expression right here on the left. And then put that with the equal, we have our equation. So 16 plus 8x is equal to 88. That's great. Any questions on 8? Then, so that was a no, or should I say it was 9 in German? Okay. So that's where we're at now. A number, so x divided by 3. So again, the by right there is implying that 3 is the divisor and x is our dividend. And so that is going to be equal to 4 less than a number. So again, be very careful here because our number is x and we're going to go 4 less than that number. So if we want to think about it, this number is our larger one. So we do need to start with our x, and then less than it is going to be subtraction by 4. So be careful with the order right there. Because while we encountered the phrase, the number second, it is the larger, so we do need to go ahead and make sure that that comes first. Any questions on number 9? Okay. So on the next page, we end up just taking these same ideas and set up and provide a context to it. So we're going to talk about Sam. Let's see if he ate ham. Probably not. I don't think they have ham at Olive Garden. But, oh man, Olive Garden sounds great, doesn't it? Anyone like pasta's their favorite food? Yes, easily. Now, my gut says so as well, but that's beside the point. Carbs, gotta love them. Anyway, Sam receives a weekly salary of $200 at Olive Garden. Please tip Sam well because that is not a lot for a weekly salary. Anyway, tipping system's so weird. Anyway, he also receives a 6% portion of tips collected for the week. What must the tips be in order for Sam to make a total of $350 per week? All right. Honestly, I feel a little bit sad for Sam because that is not a lot of money. Let's go ahead and just set this up and just see how the tips would need to play out. So we have, of course, a weekly salary of $200. So this right here is, I'm going to just kind of, as I go through these, I'm going to just kind of set this up. So a salary, of course, is a guaranteed amount. So there's going to be no variable next to it. So that's going to just be, when we set this up, it's going to be 200, and we're going to add that to some other symbols. So he also receives a 6% portion of the tips collected for this week. So in this case, the tips are acting as our X. We don't know how many tips there are, and we can see that more explicitly in the next line. What must the tips? So that's our variable X. So he gets 6% of the tips. It sounds like there's just like a tip pool and they just all get 6%. He's probably not a waitress or a waiter. He's probably working with dishes, so they just do some sort of pot and they all, I don't know. I've never been a waiter, so is there anyone who's been a waiter or waitress before in here? That is a hard job. Be very nice if you ever go out to eat. Anyway, so 6% of the tips. And so what we can think about this right here is going to essentially translate to a 0.06x. So again, there's a decimal involved. We're working with numbers, so we do need to do the translation. So that is going to be here. And then what must the tips be in order for Sam to make a total? So a total of is what we're equal to. So we're going to be looking for the total is going to be $350. So that's what we'll go ahead and set this. So now, not 360, but 350. And I don't know what number that is. Let's try that again. Okay, there we go. So this is our setup. And then we just go ahead and solve this equation, keeping in mind we're looking for the tips, which is our x. Any questions so far? All right. So I'll go ahead and subtract the 200 from both sides. And then let's see what that brings down. 0.06x is equal to 150. And again, you can go ahead and if you want to do what was recommended in the lesson last time, you could multiply everything by 100, but you are allowed to use a calculator on the exam, so you can actually just immediately directly divide both sides by 0.06. And you'll find the answer right here is going to be x is equal to 2,500. So again, there must have been $2,500 in tips. I hope that is a very slow Olive Garden. Must not be in Florida. I mean, honestly, you guys ever go out to eat? You're probably the youngest person in there by about 60 years. But snowbirds do a lot for the economy. Anyway, any questions on 10? All right, it's going to get really quiet down here in about 2 months. Yes, February. Wow, is it our happy March? Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. Anyway, Hollister. Is Hollister like still a big thing? You could smell it from a mile away. That's all I remember. So Hollister has a sale of 10% off jeans. If Amanda spent $207 on jeans before tax, good Lord, Amanda. What was the total purchase before the discount? So just take a moment and kind of read through 11 and see if you're able to make any progress on it. We'll still go over it together here in a moment, just giving you an opportunity to try it. All right, let's look at this one together. All right, so we read it through it before, but just to kind of go through it again, Hollister has a sale offering 10% off of jeans, and Amanda spent $207 before tax. What was the total purchase before the discount? So there's actually two different approaches you could take on this one. If you look at this 10% off, this is the same thing as saying Amanda paid 90% of the original purchase or original cost. So this is 10% off is the same thing as Amanda paying 90% of the original. So if you look at it this way, we know that 90%, okay, let me say this. What was the total purchase before the discount? So the original amount. So we could go ahead and just translate this to 90% or 0.9 times some total purchase was equal to what Amanda paid. And then if you go ahead and consider it that way, you just divide both sides by 0.9. And you would find that X is equal to $230. If you didn't think about it as that, like kind of that translation I made at the top, Amanda paying 90% of the original. The other way, or the other setup would have been, there was some initial amount, and then there was 10% off the original, so 0.10 times x is equal to 270. And again, you can see this right here is that same 0.90 x. So again, however you thought about it was fine. I just kind of made that mental translation in my head first, but there is the two possible kind of setups for 11 and then the solution $230. I hope she bought more than one pair of jeans. I mean, these must be really good jeans. The fact that they're a proper noun jeans, like, I don't know. Grammar, you know us math folk. Any questions on number 11? All right. And number 12, Lauren and Brittany together received 16 free iTunes songs for joining a music club. This is definitely kind of a dated example, and everyone now would be streaming, so, you know. Anyway, it is what it is. So the question is, how many iTunes songs will each receive if Brittany is to have 3 times as many as Lauren? So if we look at this, there's going to be 16 songs in total. And we know that we have 2 people right here. So we have Brittany and we have Lauren. So the sum of the songs they get must be equal to 16. So how many songs will each receive? Well, Brittany is to have 3 times as many as Lauren. So Lauren right here will get X number of songs. How many? And Brittany will have 3 times whatever Lauren has. So there is the setup for these. So if you solve this, you get 4x is equal to 16, or x is equal to 4. But be careful, because it was asking for how many songs will each receive. So this 4 right here, this is Lauren's songs. So to go ahead and figure out how many songs Brittany has, or how many songs she gets, Brittany receives 3 times that number. Receives 3 times 4, or 12 songs.